All right, today we're going to dig into something really interesting. It's a semester's worth of data from the Irving Independent School District's counseling department. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Data can seem a little dry, but trust me, when you look closely, these numbers tell an absolutely powerful story about what's really happening inside our schools every single day. So, let's just jump right in with one single number. Okay, here it is, 44,628. Just let that number hang in the air for a second. What on earth could that represent in a school district over just a few months? Well, get this. That's the total number of documented counseling contacts with students in a single semester. We're talking about nearly 45,000 individual times a counselor connected with the student. That's not just a statistic on a spreadsheet, you know? It's a measure of connection, of support, and of the incredible need that these counselors are meeting head on. So a number that huge can feel a bit overwhelming, right? How do we even begin to unpack it? Well, here's our game plan. We'll start with a big picture look at the support, then dive into the district-wide data, compare the different school levels, do a deep dive into one school, Irving High, and finally we'll piece together the story these numbers are telling us. All right, let's get into it. First up, a semester of support, where we'll start to unpack that big picture. Okay, now for part two, the district-wide data. If we really want to understand the work being done, we've got to follow the time. Let's see how counselors are actually spending their days. So take a look at this. It's pretty fascinating. The single biggest slice of the pie, a full 34%, is something called system support. Now that might sound a little vague, but think of it as the glue holding everything together. It's coordinating with teachers, talking to parents, basically all the crucial behind-the-scenes work that makes student support even possible. Right after that, the next biggest piece, at 24%, is responsive services. And you might be asking, okay, what exactly are responsive services? Well, this is the stuff we often think of first. This is the frontline, in-the-moment support. We're talking about individual counseling sessions, small group work, and, this is a big one, crisis intervention. This is when counselors are stepping in during a student's most vulnerable moments. All right, moving on to our third section, from teens to toddlers. We've seen the overall district view, but now things get really interesting when we start comparing the different school levels, because as you can imagine, student needs are definitely not one size fits all. Okay, this next slide, this one really stopped me in my tracks. When we look at suicide outcries, and that's when a student expresses thoughts of self-harm, you might expect the highest number to be in high school. I think most of us would, but it's not. It's middle school, with a staggering 171 incidents in just one semester. That's wow. And this isn't just an abstract total. When you drill down, you see the intense pressure on specific schools. Travis Middle School dealt with 68 of these outcries, Johnson Middle School, 40. It is so important to remember that behind every single one of these numbers is a kid in crisis. This data really makes you ask a critical question, doesn't it? What is happening during those middle school years? What unique academic, social, and emotional pressures, from social media to just the simple, intense biological changes of growing up, are leading to this level of distress? Now, here's another surprising trend. When it comes to consultations, so that's talking with parents, teachers, and students, it's the elementary schools that lead by a huge margin. It's not even close. This just screams how vitally important early intervention and building that strong support network is, right from day one. Okay, for our next section, let's go from the 30,000-foot view right down to the ground level. We're going to do a case study inside Irving High. So what we're looking at here is a great way to see both the micro and the macro. On the left, you've got the specific, detailed report for Irving High. And on the right, you can see how those numbers fit into the bigger picture of all the district's high schools. It really helps put everything in perspective. Now, to really understand this work, you have to know the context. At Irving High, the counselor-to-student ratio is 1 to 316. One counselor for every 316 students. Keep that number in mind as we look at what this team accomplished. So in just one semester, with that 1 to 316 ratio, the counseling team managed 35 suicide outcries, delivered 242 curriculum lessons, and enrolled 76 new students. I mean, that is a constant juggling act between crisis response, proactive guidance, and essential administrative work. All right, we've gone through a lot of data. So let's get to our final section, the story in the numbers. After looking at all this, what's the real story? What does it all mean? Here's what really stands out when you boil it all down. First, the sheer volume of work is just immense. Second, student needs change dramatically with age, with that critical crisis point really emerging in middle school. And finally, and maybe most importantly, it's clear these counselors are far more than academic advisors. They are absolutely essential frontline support for student mental health and well-being. And all this work is driven by a clear purpose, which is summed up perfectly in the department's vision statement. Excellence in counseling services, equity for all students. The data we've just seen is what that mission looks like in action. And this leaves us with one final, crucial question to think about. When you see this level of student need, from our youngest learners all the way through graduation, what does that tell us about the future of our schools and really the health of our entire community?